All right, welcome back. You're listening to the Kate Daly Show. Yes, I'm back and I'm live today. And man, that was a hard. That was hard 3 days off the air. Let me just tell you, it drives me crazy the most because I want to be on the air with all these amazing, tremendous guests that I have, bringing you truth because there's just so much truth not being told out there. So I really appreciate you listening in today. And of course, the phone lines are open 888-673-1450. If you're listening to me in the afternoon, you can actually call up and ask Jim Lee from Climate Viewer any questions. And it's nice to hear some truth, isn't it? So I also wanted to mention that this would be the time to prepare financially. Make sure that you're texting Birch Gold, okay? Text Birch Gold 989898. That's the phone number. It's 6 digits. It repeats 989898. And text my name, Kate. You're going to get some newly updated information for what's going on right now in the financial sector. And with all of the distractions going on, you can bet your bottom dollar that that there's a lot going on in the financial world that's not being talked about. So make sure and text that number. I wouldn't tell you to do it unless I knew that you were going to get this information that you 100% need, and also buy gold and silver from them because it supports me being on the air and also supports the show. So it's killing two birds with one stone, which is nice. So Birch Gold has an outstanding reputation. Please text them 989898 and then text my name, Kate. I've got Jim Lee on, and I want you to finish your thoughts on answering that amazing question, the wonderful question about, or a really statement about the fact that hurricanes are not on the uptick. We keep getting lied to about the veracity of these things. And then that's what sticks in our minds. And then also a meeting that they had around Hurricane Katrina time.
So for those who aren't familiar with Judith Curry, Judith Curry is the climate scientist who initially postulated that there was a link between global warming and increase in tropical cyclone intensity and frequency. Judith Curry also was the one who debunked her own paper and immediately drew the scorn of all of the climate community, became an outcast. But the bottom line is Fortune 500 companies rely on Judith Curry's climate predictions because she will give them like 78 different models of what the future could be, as opposed to one narrative. So if you want to learn about climate science, check out Judith Curry, check out Dr. William Happer, Willie Soon, CO2coalition.org, and you can find out just how fake the CO2 narrative is. But before that, we were talking about the hurricane drought. Well, in 2008, the Department of Homeland Security had a hurricane modification workshop. For those who want details on this, you can go to weathermodificationhistory.com. That's my website that just has the entire history in an interactive timeline. And we have over 800 newspaper articles dating back to 1889 on the history of weather modification. The Hurricane Modification Workshop was in 2008. And at that meeting, Dr. Mash Alamaro from MIT University, he said basically, let's use carbon black dust to steer or mitigate a hurricane, which was the same thing that William Gray said in 1974 in his paper, Carbon Dust Absorption of Solar Radiation. So the ability to steer a hurricane, at least somewhat, there is no such thing as weather control. There is only weather modification. They cannot control it like a joystick, but they definitely can dump chemicals in it to modify it somewhat. And the outcome is always unpredictable. Same thing with cloud seeding. They have no way to predict what's going to happen. But it's coincidental. It's very coincidental that from 2005 to 2017, there was this hurricane drought. And when Trump got elected, magically, 3 hurricanes in 2017 hit the Southeast. Then we get to the Biden administration, we see a decrease in hurricanes again. Suddenly it's election season and it's biblical again.
Right. So, interesting. Yes.
Isn't that interesting? Just an interesting correlation between who's in control, who controls the media, and what the storyline, how the storyline goes.
I'm so with you. We have another caller. Go ahead, caller. You're on with Jim Lee.
Jim, what would happen if you put dry ice in a hurricane?
They actually did that during Project Cirrus, which was in 1947, and Project Storm Fury, which was the NOAA project, which ran from the 1960s through the 1980s. And honestly, with the dry ice, the idea was that maybe we could cool it down, but it wasn't nearly as effective as they had proposed, which is why when they had the Department of Homeland Security Hurricane Modification Workshop in 2008, the DHS reached out to NOAA and said, hey, we would like you to participate in hurricane mitigation. And NOAA said to the DHS, letter available, signed, sealed, delivered on weathermodificationhistory.com. They said, how about no? Because we suck at it. Wow. And we were no good at it. And we tried it, and we never could really get any science, behind it. It was a complete failure. On the flip side, the military said this was a CIA project that was a part of Project Storm Fury, where the military, China Lake, California, the China Lake Naval Weapons Station, which was part of Operation Popeye in Vietnam, weather warfare over Vietnam, they also were part of this attempt to steer hurricanes into Cuba to hurt Castro's sugar crops, and in addition to a rain embargo on Cuba. So dry ice has never really been found to be effective other than what's called hole boring or cloud clearing. Okay. So you can sprinkle dry ice and you can make clouds go away. But as far as effectiveness versus hurricanes, there's really no proof that that's been effective at all.
I do have a question for you is why the laser story then? Why are so many promoting the laser story? But I have a caller first, so we'll get to that first. Do you have a quick question for Jim Lee?
Pretty quick. John Locke, who was the father of our political philosophy our country is founded upon, said that when the law ends, tyranny begins. Please tell me, this is a legal question, not a science question, where in the law the Constitution gives the authority for the FEMA or the federal government be involved in weather at all in any way? Other than maybe militarily.
Amen. Yeah, another rhetorical statement, but yeah, he's right. They don't.
Public Law 92-205. And if you look this up, all of this will be available on the weathermodificationhistory.com interactive timeline. After the weather warfare in Vietnam, there was a lot, because basically a bunch of old bald white dudes were like, wait a minute, there was weather warfare. We can control the weather? ? So they quickly, they had some congressional hearings on what the CIA and the U.S. Air Force and Navy were doing in Vietnam. They passed the Weather Modification Reporting Act of 1972. They passed the Weather Modification Policy Act of 1976. And these stipulate what private entities or private corporations are allowed to do in the continental United States. They have to fill out a form, report it to the Department of Commerce and NOAA. It's called a NOAA Form 17-4. And right now, there's an open public comment period till November 19th to include solar radiation management in the NOAA reporting system. So if at all possible, you need to look this thing up, because until they're seeking public comments on the ability to add geoengineering solar radiation management by private entities, which would effectively legalize private geoengineering in America.
Whoa.
A comment was November 19th.
We're going to come right back on that. We got to go to a break. We're going to come right back. Final segment with Jim Lee. You can call up to be right back. Kate Daly Show, KateDalyRadio.com. We're back today.
Thanks for listening to The Kate Daly Show. All of